Can you see the chat? If not, it might be totally overwhelming. Everyone's very excited to chat with you three.
I just see a lot about being bullied. That's all I see so far.
Sounds right.
That will not be going to you. Brad was asking for it, so you're in the clear, Benson. So you're all good.
He's used to it.
I see a lot of people funneling in. Everyone's very excited to chat with y'all. So just a quick reminder, I'm Caitlin. I'm your moderator for this afternoon. We're so excited to have three of the guys that put on one of our favorite festivals in the entire world. We got Brian, Benson, Brad, and Cory. A lot of y'all already know these guys, but for some new people that might be exploring Bonnaroo for the first time, can you kind of give us a little quick synopsis of your responsibilities and your jobs at Bonnaroo?
Or you want to go first?
Yeah. My main job on Bonnaroo is the marketing, but we like to scheme in addition.
My title is festival director, and I sort of am like general oversight of the event as a business, so kind of across a lot of different departments from an operational perspective. And yeah, that's the easiest way to quickly sum up my role. Brian, you want to go next?
Sure. Lead talent booker for the festival, sort of working with our entire talent team to help get all the bands playing the show.
How many years have you done it, Brian?
Oh, wow. Well, I started working not on the booking side, but I started at Bonnaroo in 2005.
Kind of let these people know.
Can't remember when Ashley finally let me start listening and on booking calls. I think it was maybe 07. So we'll go with that. We'll go with 2007.
Awesome.
Great year.
Yeah, and for everyone listening, if you have a question, you can just click that raise your hand button there at the bottom. I'll bring you on stage and you can ask any of these guys any questions you have. But I do love to start.
Caitlin, there's a couple of audio is low comments. Is everybody hearing this okay?
I think so. So some people, if you're joining on mobile, you just got to scroll up and just change the output.
Yeah, I think we're good.
There.
Got
Cool.
how to use Discord.
But one thing that we do love to do in these AMAs, we ask all of our artists and we ask our bookers. We love to know kind of what was your first festival personally, like that you went to, and you were, if there's any memories from that festival. Any of you guys?
I'll go first. Bonnaroo was my first as a fan, and I think as someone working in the industry. Actually, I think Forecastle in Louisville, Kentucky might have been my first working, but Bonnaroo was the first music festival I ever attended. 2009 was the first year that I ever attended. Cory?
Bonnaroo was my first festival. I went in 2011. And that same year, I went to Starry Nights in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So that was my first summer of festivals. Benson?
Oh, I don't want to say. I don't know. It might have been. What was the name of that? There was a string cheese festival in at Swanee in Florida. I want to say that was 2000. I'm having a hard time thinking of a festival I went to before that, so we're gonna go with that one. It was some sort of, I can't remember what it was called, but a string cheese kind of event at Swanee, Spirit of Swanee Music Park back in the day.
Before Hula, though, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, a long time ago.
We got our first question. I'm going to bring Dan up on stage. Hey, Dan.
Hey, my audio working?
Yeah, what's up,
Good, good.
Dan?
Hey,
Dan.
so operational question, not to beat on Brad right away. I see the sheriffs are beating drums about wanting to be in on the grounds more and giving us a hard time. And I'm curious, what happened to the Mounties? Why did we lose them, and how can we get them back?
I'll take that. I'll take that question, and thanks for the question, Dan. The Mounties was more of it's just a big operation to house those horses, have no pun intended, stable conditions and environment for them to really be out there in the heat and everything for very long extended periods of time. And so we realized after last year when people really noticed that those were missing that we're doing a lot to work this year on just the visibility of safety staff and security, not just security bodies, but in general medical and safety staff out in the campgrounds. You're going to see these new. They're going to be pretty tall with some of our Safe Fest staff stationed on top of them around the plazas. They're basically going to be like giant lifeguard towers, essentially. Um, and we're going to be bringing those in this year to help try to supplement that visibility factor that I think the Mounties were really great at. It wasn't hard to spot one of those things if you were looking for help or needed assistance. So hopefully that will uh, be a good supplement. And then if we feel like there's still issues, we'll continue to keep working on it. But the Mounties just got, as much as we loved them, it just got to a place where it wasn't really a feasible or fair operation to have them doing.
It sounds like a cool solution. Just make sure those poor guys are shaded, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. They're gonna be shaded and unlimited sunscreen out there as well if they gotta be walking around.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, look for Dan with his totem's usually a fire truck. I don't know if he's keeping that this year. But we
Yep,
got
still got it.
it's coming back. Awesome. We got Chris next. Hey, Chris.
Hey guys, thanks so much for doing this. Really appreciate you being on today. Um, haven't been to Bonnaroo, maybe 1 year. But I did have a question for the bookers in terms of so you mentioned your first year, I think it was '07 that you booked. What was your first booking, if you can remember? And also, um, who, if you can say, were some of the misses for this year? Because Houston, when the Lollapalooza lineup came out, he let us know. I think it was three of the misses this year that, for whatever reason, just didn't work out. Would you be able to name those?
Okay, well, let's see. The first, I wish I remembered my first booking, but honestly, I don't know who that was. And now that you asked me that question, I wish I knew the answer. But there have been a lot of bookings since 2007 on this show and a lot of other festivals. So they all start to jumble together in my brain a little bit, unfortunately. And to clarify your second question, by misses, you mean artists that we tried to get that aren't on the show?
Yeah, either artists that you tried to get that didn't weren't able to make it, or anyone that maybe came up later that you're like, oh wow, wish we had them on, or wish we had booked them um, in time for the fest.
Yeah. Um, I mean, we put a lot of irons in the fire as we go here, right? I mean, there's a lot, I'm not sure that folks really realize how many offers are made, and ultimately don't come to fruition through the process of booking, especially a show like Bonnaroo with how many slots we have and how many bands play the show. Um, I probably will hesitate a little bit to name names just because, there's a lot of people that, or a lot of bands that I think, we tried to get this year that, we might have a really nice shot at for 26 or 27 and beyond. And, oh, Cory, name names. Good Lord.
Just give them one name, Benson.
Yeah.
One fun one.
Yeah, I mean, look, there was definitely a moment, where Childish Gambino was likely, and and ultimately did not work out. I hope Donald is somebody we can get back on the farm at some point soon. I don't know about everybody else, but that was one of my favorite shows for those that were lucky enough to see that in 19. That was a memorable one, and one we went for hard, and hopefully we can get that back in the future. So there you go, Corey.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you giving us one name.
Sure. Thanks for your question.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much for doing this.
Hey, sorry,
Uh-oh,
my
not this
stuff's going on.
guy, not this guy.
I
Here we go.
know, I know. I'll try to keep it to like 14 questions, so I won't go too long. So I guess I'll start by asking what your kind of process for scheduling artists is. So obviously, late night, there's a lot of the bigger artists that um, you kind of just run out of time to put earlier in the day because of how hot it is, and for other reasons. But people talk about like Justice versus Arcade Fire versus King Gizzard this year. But what about some of the artists earlier in the day, like Bill Murray versus Royal Otis? At that time in the day, it's a similar genre of artist. It's hotter out. I guess what kind of goes into the logic there, um, for for just conflicts in general, and then if I have to open the 2026 can of worms, what will it be like booking in 26, given that you're not having to compete with Glastonbury, given that it's a fallow year, and given that it's starting to sound like we don't really know for sure that some of the artists that have been on the high request list might actually be back on the tour circuit finally. So I'll start with that. I don't want to overwhelm y'all. So
No, you're good. Yeah. Good questions. On the schedule, look, I think, we want to minimize conflicts as best as possible. There's always going to be some. There are some that come up that sort of take us by surprise sometimes too, because we think that we've done a nice job cross genre wise of programming specific times of the day. But ultimately, there's always going to be some. It's just the nature of the beast. Ultimately, sometimes it'll come down to an artist's availability on a specific day, or maybe we're far down the line in terms of confirming bands, and we only have a couple of slots left to put stuff. But there's a band we really want, so the schedule kind of like as the lineup comes together, it's like putting together like I don't know what the analogy is, like a 10,000 piece jigsaw puzzle, and just like kind of as it comes together, we're like scheduling as we go. And a lot of that moves around. We kind of, talk a lot about in here, like the schedules, like this living, breathing, never ending thing. Right. But, at some point it's got to be done. The late nights, like the main stage is not going. And, our hope is that there's a lot of you on the farm. Those stages can only hold so many people, so it's inevitable, especially when you're starting, post headliner, and you've got like, a couple 3 hours to play with there. So, we're not putting, you know, 4 or 5 dance acts up against one another in that slot as an example. We try to do a nice mix of genres there that are representative of a lot of different kinds of music that a lot of people like, but ultimately those late night slots are really popular. It's a huge part of our scene at the festival, and And there's gonna be conflicts, and honestly, we need folks going to all those shows for it to work logistically as well. Um, I don't know if that makes sense.
No,
Um,
the nighttime slot definitely makes sense given pretty much everyone's still going to be in Bonnaroo, and you have to kind of spread that out. I was just noticing some conflicts earlier in the day, but I think and you kind of mentioned that sometimes it
Yeah.
just comes down to scheduling. So
Yeah, it does. It does. And again, we try our best to avoid them if we can, but it's not going to be perfect, and we will we definitely are eyes wide open when it comes to that stuff. And then remind me your second question.
sure, yeah. So 26, you're not competing with Glastonbury. In theory, they're having a fallow year. And then I guess I'll abstract it a little bit more to booking in general. So you said I guess you're always trying to book artists for I guess as little as possible. I hate to put it in those terms, so that you have more room for other artists. As someone who kind of helps run the Wednesday party, how do you get artists to kind of play your event for the best deal possible, given availability as well?
Yeah. We've Bonnaroo certainly, you know, hangs in there in terms of getting good deals. I just think, you've got to have savvy buyers that have been around a while, and luckily, Steve Green and I are old at this point and been doing it for a long time, and kind of have a lot of history in terms of working with bands and knowing kind of like what we can pay in certain spots here and there, and strategically, we try to jump on things early and get ahead of it. I think all that kind of plays into it, in terms of trying to get good deals. But ultimately, it's not just about that, right? We want to get the right artists on the show every year, and that's our focus.
Yeah, so I guess that was kind of the second half of that question is how does an availability of artists impact that with Glastonbury obviously not happening and potentially some of the artists that were highly requested being back in the circuit. I don't want to take up too much time, so that'll be the
No,
last.
you're good. No, it's I mean, Glastonbury, having its fallow, is, I mean, it doesn't hurt. We definitely in the middle of June, Bonnaroo definitely competes a lot with Europe, which is why we do have to get out ahead of it sometimes. And even when we do, we're too late sometimes because a lot of these European festivals are even out ahead of the we are. But yeah, I think it's helpful, and based on conversations we're having, yeah, it feels good so far in terms of avails, and we'll see if we can start landing the plane on some of these bands.
Appreciate it. I'll let Caitlin bring someone else up.
Thanks, Andrew. Great questions. Um, I'm going to bring up who was next. Rug by Robinson. I sent you a request to come up. But until he comes on stage, I'm super curious about this year. Is there certain artist sets that each of you are really excited to see?
I'll go first. I've talked about this a bunch. I'm really just excited for. I really think people should not sleep on seeing Luke Combs on Thursday night, even if you're not a
Oh, here
country
we go. Here we
music.
go.
I just think he's going to bring a really special set, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I think you guys should. Obviously, Benson gives me a lot of slack.
Country Brad, don't sleep on one of the headliners.
But I'm just saying. I mean, most of the people that'll be at the show probably have maybe heard of Luke, but not familiar with his music. And I think you should just be open. Part of Bonnaroo is discovery and being open eared to new things. So come see Luke Combs. I know I got some Luke Combs fans in the chat, so that's good to have my back on that. Cory?
Remy Wolf Super Jam is gonna be crazy. Want to see Jesse Murph. Want to see that Megadeth show, and I'm gonna be at all the Giz shows for sure. Benson.
Yeah. Gosh, I'd say, I mean, Giz is probably one for me this year. Um, Justice Late Night, I think, is high up there for me. Yeah, I don't know. You know, we just had this band Flip Turn in Charleston. I thought they had a tremendous set, and I'd say those guys, that young band hitting the main stage on Friday will be fun. Royal Lotus, MJ Linderman, um, Glorilla on Sunday in a tent. That'll be pretty wild, I think. Yeah, I think those are some highlights.
Love it. Shout out Flip Turn. They were our very first AMA here a couple years ago. So we have absolutely loved seeing them just totally rise up the lineups for all the festivals. So that's great. But yeah, we got Mira next. Hey Mira.
Hi. So I'm like a music professional trying to get like more into like music festivals and everything. Funny enough, Brad, I think I'm actually connected with you on LinkedIn.
Let's
Uh,
go.
but so I was seeing some people in the chat. I also kind of wanted to ask to myself. So like for those who are hoping to work in more in the festival scene, specifically at Bonnaroo, whether it's like booking or marketing or even ops, like what qualities or experience are you guys looking for like that sets someone apart with like an oversaturated pool of applicants?
I can take this real quick, and then
Yeah.
I think Brad will have some stuff to add too. I always really like to see people who have like done DIY stuff, whether it's like manage a band or run a local music festival, or like done booking for your friend's band, stuff like that. I always like to see that kind of stuff pop up on a resume. Brad.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just kind of echoing what Cory said. I think in the music industry, relationships are so important. Make sure that you are always aware of who you're talking to and what you're talking about. I think that experience in the live music business is experience and it's valid no matter at what level you have it, because you know the biggest festival you can think of and the smallest festival you can think of, they're all the same, smaller parts of the same whole. So if you can execute really well at a small scale and you have really great work ethic, you can execute great at a bigger scale. So I think just try to start in your hometown, running merch at a venue or working with a local band as a TM or trying to run sound or being a runner for a venue, or getting volunteer jobs with any sort of like local festivals that might be happening. I think just getting as much experience as possible, and trying to network as much as possible, because there are a ton of applicants, and that's why this industry I think relies a ton on personal relationships. Um, so my recommendation would be network like crazy and start small. Just don't try to start too big.
Well, that's good to hear. It was like funny enough, you say like start small, don't go too big. My first festival and like music industry job I worked was at Bonnaroo.
Well, you're already in then. You're already in the circle.
I guess so. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, Mira.
Thanks, Mira. We got Abbott Mumford 2010 Conflict next.
Oh,
Hey.
that's such a good username.
Hey, what's up, everybody? How we doing?
Great.
All right, good. I just want to make sure you could hear me. So I guess since Benson's been around for so long, I was
I don't
curious
like
about
the
like
lead into this one. I do not like the lead into this one at all.
no. It's like because like I think about like 2010 when Jay-Z headlined and like that being like the first proper hip hop headliner, and thinking of like Luke Combs headlining this year. Like, what's the thought process, or like kind of like what goes into like kind of being like, okay, this is the year we're going to kind of try out like X genre as a headliner, knowing that some people are going to be like, oh, everything is destroyed forever, and like how does that work out?
It's good. That's a really good question. We don't we don't go, hey, 2025, we're going to do country. It's
Mhm.
not really how it works. It's very artist driven. We're constantly having conversations with all kinds of different artists and different genres. That's what makes this festival the best in the world, in my opinion, is there's so many things that we can do as bookers that work at this festival, unlike anywhere else in the world, right? Where else at Bonnaroo can you see this? And we're able to dream that up every day. And that's why I think we're able to take a shot on something like a Luke, because you guys are going to embrace it and go for it and be down with it and go see it. And it's not for us. It's not so far out of left field that it doesn't make sense. That was an artist that this year, look, it's no secret. You see Luke's name popping up on a lot of festival, multi-genre festival lineups. And, that is, strategic from their team. It's something that they really wanted to do. And we were up for having that conversation, and we're able to make it work. So, I think it's exciting, and hopefully we can, continue to showcase different genres at the top in the future.
Sounds good. Just one last quick question: Are there any updates on the fountain? If there's going to be any updates to it?
Yeah, I'll take that one. I'll take the bait on that one. Yeah, listen, we reevaluated and had conversations with some of our partners at like a state level last year from some things that had kind of went down after the show that we weren't ever really able to pinpoint what the causes were. But for this year, we're having a pretty robust. You guys will see this as we get closer. I'm not sure if we'll talk about it on socials or if you'll just see stuff around the farm related to this, but we're going to be closing the fountain multiple times a day to do complete cleanings of it, and making sure that that thing, it's a staple of the event and it's been around for a long time, and we're having to find a balance of making sure that it's a fun environment but not getting rid of it, because we don't want to get rid of it. So we've got a really great plan in place. You'll see a bunch of changes on site this year on how we're cleaning that thing, making it a better time. And we're always open to feedback, and we know you guys will give it to us. But just once you get on site this year, give us your feedback on how it's going, and uh, we'll keep improving and improving. But it's not going anywhere. I think I saw some rumors on Reddit at once that we were going to tear that thing down. We're never going to do that. If anything, we would just turn the water off and make it into an art installation. But we found a way to move forward for now that we all feel really great about.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks. Great questions. We got Jam and Chill next.
Hey y'all, long time listener, first time caller.
What's up, Jam and Chill?
Hey, I had a question about the Infinity stage. It looked really cool. I'm very excited for it. Two questions. One, any concerns with regards to sound bleed? I know it's going to be wedged there, in that corner, but just curious how loud it will be for the outside speaking or outside facing speakers. And then second, I thought there was some discussion about maybe doing some unique events like sound baths or other things with the technology. Any insights you can provide on that?
Yeah, I'll take this one as well. To the first question, there's a lot that goes into these audio studies. We're not directly conflicted with which. We are conflicted with this tent on some of the programming on Infinity. But it's really interesting. The speakers that face towards the outside of that stage, will only be used if we get to a point where the crowds are bigger than what can fit inside of these three domes. And these three domes are huge areas. So I don't expect a lot of sets through the weekend that require it. When you're inside of these zones, the speakers are all facing inwards towards you. And so they actually have to they don't have to be turned up as loud as a normal stage speaker. And you'd be surprised how you can walk into this zone and hear things with such clarity. And from the outside, you're really just getting the low ends of bass. Like you're not really hearing any of the high ends or the mid levels. So, um, weather also plays huge into bleed. Sometimes people think this is made up, but you have moisture in the air, you have rain, you have wind. It can really affect audio in a way that we just have no control over. So, not to say there won't be some instances where we might see issues with bleed, but I feel really great about the plan we've put together, the location that we've put it, and how we've been really careful that we weren't going up against Witch at all, because Witch is obviously very loud and cranking over there. And I don't expect Infinity to cause any issues for shows at this temp. But it's a great question. And then
Yeah,
the
hey Brad, I'll jump in. Yeah, look, I mean,
Yeah.
so we're playing, we're playing opposite Witch. We're playing during Witch changeovers. I think, for me, we just need to see this thing, out there and see how it goes, see what the sound is like. It could be a situation where we could play up against Witch in the future. Who knows? Like, I hope, hopefully we were, a little conservative, if anything, in this first year of doing this thing. And, we didn't want to have a scenario where we overbooked it and then there was a bunch of sound bleed and now it's, not the best experience. So hopefully, hopefully we did it the right way in year one, and then we can just continue to add to it once we really, see it in that space and see how it goes in the first year.
And then just the follow-up question, the answer to the additional sound bass programming, we're still working on that. I think that might be something that we released we wanted to have it done before now, but there's some hurdles that we've been jumping over on licensing, because some of these programs involve playback of things that you guys will be very interested in, but they just require some additional levels of getting licenses and clearances to be able to do it. So look for that information to come. We're still going to do it. We just don't have it all locked in yet, and we were hoping to have it by now, but we don't.
No, I really appreciate it. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, man.
Love it. Great question. We got BK next. Welcome in.
Hello. I wanted to ask about the Who stage. For most of the days, they're playing like into Cinnaru until around, I think, 7. But is there any concern that some of those later Who stage acts are going to be basically playing to nobody since everyone will be in Cinnaru?
I don't think so. I think, there's a reason why we stopped at 7, with the stage location change. That stage traditionally, with it being in Cinnaru, has gone till, midnight or so, 11 p.m. midnight. We didn't necessarily want to get too deep into, getting up against what and which stage headliner level. But I think, we feel pretty good about going until that hour. I think that's, a pretty good time where a lot of people start heading into Cinnaru to kind of stay for a while. So, but look, there's still plenty of traffic kind of moving in and out of that area, and I think we'll be okay.
Okay, I appreciate it. Also, I got to advocate for more emo pop punk on the farm like Hot Mulligan.
Let's
That's all I
go.
got to say.
Consider it noted.
I got something to add on the Who stage thing. We got access to scan data, so we can see, like, based on what time of day it is, what percentage of people are in the campgrounds versus in Cinnaru. And up until that, like, 5, 6, 7 o'clock range, a lot of times it's more than half still in the campgrounds. So, with that being kind of, along with some stuff in Where in the Woods, the main source of programming out there, we're expecting it to be pretty well attended throughout the day.
Yeah, great point, Cory. I was going to bring that up too. I mean, even after that, at any given time, up against even the headliners, at any given time, there's easily 10,000 people still in the campgrounds that aren't inside centering. And so, great question, but I don't think we're too concerned about it.
Perfect. Thank you. We got Glawin next. Welcome in.
Hey, first of all, like, thank you guys so much for putting this on. It's so awesome to be able to ask you guys all these questions. I run a small business. I just started. I'm putting it together right now, essentially. And I'm trying to kind of partner with different music festivals. It's a trading card situation. And I want to use photos from festivals. That I've taken, of course. But I guess my question is kind of like, how do small startup businesses, or maybe I have to wait until I'm a bigger business, partner with Bonnaroo, and like, how do you guys go about doing that?
Cory, here's my answer, man. First of all, I respect the hustle and shooting your shot. We love collaborating with people and companies of any size if we can just make it make sense. Cory does a lot of cool stuff with different partners, specifically around Bonnaroo. I don't know if you want to add anything, Cory.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, on the marketing partnership side, it's pretty easy. Like, we're constantly looking for that kind of stuff. We do, probably a dozen different random things every year. Um, and I'd definitely be down to have a conversation, especially once we get through this year, looking at next year. Um, and then, I think there is a threshold on the paid side. Like, once you start talking merch and stuff, I think to get into that world, and like, if you were, if your goal was to be like an item in our merch store, I think there would be some sort of threshold you would want to achieve, whether that's growing your brand a little bit on social media, or being able to see, some sales coming in online. Just kind of like trying to establish a basis for yourself there. And then, just having a cool product, which it seems like you do.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. We're excited to see those cards out on the wild this year.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
definitely will be handing them out.
cool. Come to our meetup. I know people at the meetup would love to see them. But we got Rue Wizard next. Hey, Rue Wizard.
You're muted, Rue Wizard.
Sorry. I got it. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Hey, yeah. Hey, my name's John. I'm from Boone, North Carolina. I'm a 12-year Bonnaroo vet. I love this place. I had kind of two questions. One of them for all y'all. One of them, sure, one of y'all can answer. Uh, are there any plans to extend Area 931? That's probably like, I got to guest camp back there a long time ago, and then when it opened up to the public, I was super pumped. And I was curious, is that land kind of behind this tent? Is that like up for, like available, or like are there any plans to clear that out and like get more people camping in the woods? Because that's, camping in the woods is really nice at Bonnaroo. And then my second question for all y'all, you can kind of answer, is where do you like to stand at the shows at Bonnaroo, like in the crowd, side stage, whatever?
I'll answer the first one. I mean, we're always looking at ways to keep expanding these areas that have been of interest to fans. 931 obviously has people love it back there. It's probably the best spot on the farm, with all the shade and just how close it is to Centeroo. We're currently kind of at our limit. The property behind this tent that you're referencing is owned by a neighbor. It's not actually
Uh,
land that
yeah.
we own, and it's kind of swampland. We've asked them about trying to use it before, and some of it's just not really great. And if we get any kind of rain at all, it floods pretty easily in there. But the short answer is we're always looking to try to expand if there's opportunities. I just don't know if there are any at the moment.
Cool. Thank you.
And then what was the second question?
And
I already.
I was just curious to where you guys like to stand during a show at Bonnaroo. Like where's your, like for example, like in the tents. I like to stand right in front of the soundboard. That's like the best spot in the whole festival. I'm curious where you like to stand during a show.
I like to be as close to the front of the house watching it as I can. So either behind the soundboard, in front of it, to the side of it, somewhere in that area for me personally.
Yeah, I agree. I hate watching shows side stage, and I hate being up really close in the tents. I'm also really tall, so people usually get pissed when they're standing behind me. So I usually try to float back to the soundboard.
Benson?
Yeah, I mean, look, I have a hard time standing still, as these guys know. So I'm kind of bouncing around. Yeah, I somewhere around front of house mix. Really, at any of the stages is pretty ideal. But a lot of my job is being backstage and side stage and hanging out as well. So that's oftentimes where I am.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Sure,
Thanks
great
for
Thanks for,
questions.
yeah. I'm sure y'all are being very nice, but I'm sure a lot of Bonnaroo is like putting out fires and going to meet this person and doing a bunch of stuff. So hopefully you do get to enjoy most of the show that y'all are putting on all year long. So that's good to hear that y'all can take a moment and see some artists. But we got certain trips next.
Hey guys, thank you all for doing this. My question, I kind of have two questions. First, I really appreciate the push for the expansion of like campgrounds and more opportunity to do things in Outeroo. My first question is about will there potentially be a opportunity for maybe expanding like doing comedy or bringing back comedy or film or like film Q&As or something that used to happen back in the day, but maybe on a smaller scale in Outeroo. And then the second question is, I remember there used to be like screenings of major sports games like the NBA finals. Will there be opportunities for that this year, whether it be Centeroo or Outeroo?
Great
Brad,
question.
you gonna give me a stage to do some comedy on or not, man? Come on.
Okay. First of all, I got a question. What kind of trips are we talking about here? Certain trips? We're talking about field trips, grocery store trips.
Road trips,
Road trips. Great. That's
but
what
it's kind of triple entendre, you know.
I love that. Great question. So the first answer, I'm already forgetting some of your question, but comedy I'll address first. I'll be hosting a roast of all my Reddit haters on Sunday at 1:00. So if you want to come to that, DM me. I'll give you the secret location.
Oh yeah,
Hey
I'm
Brad, I'm
down.
gonna be DMing you. I'm gonna be DMing you.
We have had a lot of discussions about comedy, and this might be a better question for Benson, but I think we just haven't really found a great way to program comedy that we feel is impactful for what we would have to invest in it. Benson, do you want to add anything to that? Am I
Yeah, I
fishing?
do want to add, Mr. Parker. I'd like to add that if we had the right area to do it, we would do it. Look, we definitely had a groove there for a little bit. A lot of that was underwritten. Can we work on that again in terms of getting some support? Be it on the sponsorship level or other areas, then yeah, I think that's a real possibility for the future.
Would you attend a comedy club at Bonnaroo certain trips if it was a $5 additional fee that got you in the show, but that was paid directly to the comedians performing?
Oh yeah, I would. I don't know
Okay.
about anybody else, but
Yeah, look, here's the question on comedy. It's if there isn't let's say a tent or a dedicated performance space, would people still like to see comedy at the expense of less bands?
Great question.
right.
Cha-Cha's in. Fuck yeah. All right, great. Well, we're gonna book less bands. There you go.
I think you had
Or
another
like, would you
you had.
rather like if we're looking at like this year we added, you know, the Infinity, like would we rather get rid of the Infinity and do a comedy tent? And maybe that'll be easier to answer after everyone sees it this year. But that's kind of like to really do it, I feel like that's kind of like the balance that we have to look at.
I love
Unless
that
you do like a small club in
A-
Outer or something.
Andrew really doesn't think we can afford Lady Gaga in general. That's amazing to me.
I like the idea. Yeah, cinema and I think cinema and comedy may have a comeback at some point. I think we just got to find a way to do it that makes sense and is tasteful and can get the attention that it needs. But music is always, I think, going to be, our focus, obviously.
I think I'm out on cinema.
All right, he's out on cinema. Oh, we got the Sham God in here. All right, certain trips. Thanks for the questions.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. We got Champ God next. Welcome in.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
We got you.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, we
Yes.
got you.
Okay, cool. Hi, my name is D'Angelo. This will be my third Bonnaroo. I'm coming from San Francisco, California, and I had a question towards like production. I noticed that like at my first Bonnaroo back in 2023, the production value seemed to be like really high, and it amazed me honestly. And I feel like last year I didn't see as much of the fireworks, the lasers, and stuff like that. And so I was wondering like what goes into that? Is it the artist's responsibility? Does the festival provide it? And like what does that kind of look like with your guys' festival?
Yeah. It's oftentimes, especially the headliners, it can be a collaboration with the artist. Sometimes the artist says, they are willing to, or want to do certain things on their own, and sometimes we help with that, or sometimes we collaborate if that's the direction they want to go. So, in a large part, it's talent driven, but yeah, look, we like to do spectacles every now and then, and I think you'll continue to see that happen.
Awesome, thank you guys.
Shout out
Team
Outside
Stage
Lands.
looks really cool.
Yeah, I love Outside Lands. What pushed me to you guys?
Shout out Outside Lands. Shout out Superfly. Shout out D'Angelo.
Thank you. Have a good one, guys.
Next, we got Markush. So, welcome in.
Hello. My question was, as far as like going back to like scaling back, We're in the Woods. I know it's a lot because of the Infinity stage being made, but how much was like there an effect of having the main like really big names going on there, like Alice in Wonderland last year, or Chase's Status, or Zed's Dead for the past couple of years? Um, are we ever going to see that return, or is it all just going to be always in the Infinity stage from now on?
We're not going to ever put big bands back in Where in the Woods. It's just not safe. It's not a space created for crowds of that size. We'll still keep doing fun stuff out there, but we'll save the bigger artists that we would maybe consider putting out there to put in the Infinity. And when you see the Infinity and how much we've invested in this thing, you'll understand why we're making that decision.
Alrighty, thank you so much.
Thanks, Mr. Cush.
Great question. Great answer. We got Soup next. Hey, Soup.
Hello. This is going to be my first Bonnaroo. I've attended a bunch of other festivals in the past, but this is like my bucket list item. As a first time Bonnaroo attendee, do you guys have any like extreme words of wisdoms from vets for like camping supplies and stuff? Like, do you have any like little utensils that have like made or break your experience? Do you have a preferred foods you like to cook there? And then also, are there actually bees on the left side of the stage? Because I am like severely allergic. And even the Google AI is confused about it.
Oh, I want to not give you a serious answer but you have an allergy. I feel like I have to. I don't think you should be worried about the bees.
I didn't think so.
I've personally never seen the bees. If I'm being gaslit by the entire universe, maybe they're there, but I've personally never seen the bees. My tips, and then I'll let Cory and Benson speak. Coconut water and the electrolyte applesauce packets they make for adults. Those are my lifesavers while I'm at Bonnaroo. I stock my fridge with those like crazy. You got
Electrolyte applesauce.
Yeah, and the coconut water is really key because just drinking water at Bonnaroo is not enough. You'll still get dehydrated. So, you gotta get those electrolytes pumping. Coconut water is really great to, keep you hydrated.
That's awesome. Thank you, guys. That was it.
I think you should bring as much shade as possible. Like cover your tent with an easy up. Have a as good of a camp setup as you can muster with tapestries and tarps and easy up, etc. Drink lots of water. And my thing is like my first couple of years, we were all like pretty fired up about like having a menu and like doing a bunch of cooking and stuff, and that was kind of a disaster. So unless you're like totally sure you're gonna like fire up the camp stove out there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon in the hot sun, I would probably just bring some easy stuff for breakfast and crush a slice of pizza when you get hungry.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it so much. Happy Roo.
Thanks, Soup. Yeah, I hope you
Thanks,
have a
Dave.
great first
Have
Roo.
fun.
So exciting. All right, we finally got Rug by Robinson in here. Welcome in.
Hey, thanks for having me. Hey guys, really appreciate y'all doing all this direct to community type interaction. Really cool to see y'all answering questions and talking to the Bonnaroo family out there. I want to get an idea about scale this year. We've heard the sellout get thrown out there several times. What do you have a feel for the number of patrons that would be on site in a modern sellout, and then also like number of people when you start to throw in vendors and workers, all that kind of stuff?
I'm guessing Benson and Cory are gonna let me take this one.
No,
So
I just was it was just lingering on the modern sellout. It just makes me feel really old for some reason.
I've been going for a long time, so like it changed over the years when we see post Bonnaroo numbers and what's called a sellout, what's not. So I'm curious, and I think it was the What podcast when y'all mentioned being able to lease out land. I never heard that until this year, so I'm wondering if that changes capabilities in terms of how many tickets you can sell.
Yeah, so I mean, listen, here's the general answer. We try to keep numbers really close to our chest that are too specific for safety reasons. But a sellout number for this show can fluctuate slightly year to year based on multiple factors. If people, we're dictated by how many people we can get on the property, by how many vehicles we can park and camp. So if you get an average of 4 people in each car versus an average of 3 people in each car, that can make the situation change a little bit. The venue itself, Cinnaru, we can make it hold a lot of people. Probably more than what we would ever actually be able to sell tickets. But the property that you guys see when you come to the festival, we activate on a sellout year about 900 acres, but we only own about 600 of those. The rest of it we flex out to properties around us on multi-year leases with neighbors that love us and like to work with us. So um, some years we use all of that. Some years we use 90% of it. It just kind of changes year to year. And we also have things like weather that can affect that. If we get a little bit of rain, there's a few places that just get a little muddy, and we decide, okay, well, we're not actually going to camp people on this part of the property, but we're going to activate this other, lot across the street that we typically wouldn't be using, but we're just going to use it because it's better ground to put people on for the weekend. So I know that's not a straight answer, but it's the truth, really.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get you not being able to give out exact numbers for safety purposes. I guess I was just curious when we're talking about 70,000 or 120,000 people, order of magnitude here. Is it what we've seen at the biggest years in the past, or is it kind of middle of the road for that?
Yeah,
I
it's
think,
not over 100.
well, and I think what you're speaking to also is like
like back in the day, quote, people did used to carpool more, and there were physically more people on the farm than you've seen like 19, 22, 23, 24. So I don't know that we'll ever fully return to that craziness just because of, how people operate now. I think that's changed a little bit, um, which, is actually probably a good thing from the fan perspective.
And hopefully this all of this background context that I just gave helps you all understand why we tried to do the incentivize for carpooling. Because one, it's better for the earth to have less cars come on property, but two, it helps us out in general. Like from a traffic perspective, it just alleviates a lot of stress on our team if we can get the same amount of people on property but in less vehicles.
Right on. Sounds good. Thanks for the time, fellas.
Thanks, man.
Have a good one.
Thanks, man. Yeah, we're almost at our time, and before we get to our final question from Evan, I do have a Booker question for Benson. We've had multiple Bookers in here who have kind of shared like their white whale. Like each Booker, you have an accomplishment of maybe, booking a beetle. Like each time you cross that milestone, you now have to have a new white whale, I guess. Do you have one currently that you can share with us?
That's a great question. Yeah, yeah. For me, it's REM. I
Great
don't.
answer. I think everyone here would love that.
Yeah, that band has never played Bonnaroo, and that's haunts me to this day. So, we will ask them every year until maybe somebody replaces me at some point. But yeah, that would be my white whale for sure.
Do
Listen,
you and Steve
Miley,
share similar?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're two middle-aged white dudes. I think REM's pretty up there for both of us. And both grew up with that band as a pretty massive influence on us. So, um, you know, one of the most important Southern bands ever. Need them to play.
Love it. And I'm sure y'all just glaze over the Dolly Miley. That's everyone's dream. But I'm assuming Dolly gets the ask every year as well. So maybe one year she'll finally come to the farm.
We will be honored to have Dolly in a year. She wants to come.
Love it. Okay, we got 1 minute left, and thanks, guys, so much for this. We are going to hand it over to Evan Rue Poppy, who's got a question.
Poppy.
How's it going, guys? Good to talk to you again. So Bonnaroo obviously has a lot of personality, and I'm kind of want to piggyback off of like the comedy question. Do you guys see any opportunity to kind of add personality and comedy? Maybe like with PA, like voice of Rufus, or like hiring a comedian to kind of like fill the air, introduce headliners, and kind of like a lot of times on Sunday, I feel like when the last show is over, it's just kind of like, is it over? Like what's happening? So like I feel like it would be cool if there was just kind of like some PA announcement, or you had some kind of like narration personality throughout the weekend. And then it could probably even double as kind of like safety announcements and stuff when storms roll through and that kind of thing.
Evan, you have a fantastic voice for radio, if no one's ever told you that.
You should see my face.
Cory, I think this is a you question actually to end us.
I don't know if it's a me question. I think it's a great idea. It's funny that you mentioned the like Sunday, like into the Sunday show thing, because it always does feel like, I don't know. I remember like standing out there in the field with my friends, and you like don't really want to like go back to the campsite, and you kind of just hope the band's gonna keep playing, and then the lights kind of come on. It's like, I don't know. It is kind of a weird end to things. Maybe there's something cool we could do. I don't know. I know that's not really an answer to your question, but that's a good point.
I didn't really need an answer, just kind of like a suggestion. And Bonner or Brad, if you like my voice that much, I just did the What podcast and an interview with Goose last week. So
Let's
There's
go.
there's more there's more where there's more where this came from.
Thanks for the question, Evan. We'll definitely think about it. I mean, the thing that we love about Rue the most is it's just such a whimsical brand. It's a really awesome brand and event to be able to work on. Just to Benson's point on the booking side, but I think just across the board in general, the brand allows so much flexibility for us to just have fun and be creative, whether it's on socials or on site with Rufus or in what we're booking with having, Insane Clown Posse and Luke Combs on the same lineup. Like Bonnaroo just isn't a limitless toy box that we can do things that none of them will ever really seem too far out of left field because that's just the nature of the event. So I appreciate your question.
Yeah, you got
it. Somebody said it in the chat, but when you were asking your question, the first name that came into my head was Weird Al. Yeah, exactly. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, that'd
Daniel
be
Hortons
fantastic.
also had this idea of like doing like a, I don't know, some sort of sweepstakes to get fans to introduce the bands that I've like been kind of mulling around for a while. I think maybe next year we'll try to find a way to do that for a few shows or something.
I love that. Benson's gonna love that. Oh, you gotta go, Benson. You gotta go tell one of the bands that Rue Poppy's gonna introduce them. How you feel about that?
Feel great about it.
Thanks, Evan.
Great
Thank you guys
question,
for your
Evan.
time. You got it.
Yeah, that is our full hour, guys.
Did
Thanks so
we
much
just
for.
we just go a whole hour and not a single Tame Impala question? This
Yeah,
is
we made it.
I'll be honest with you, I am stunned.
I think everyone was being on their best behavior. They were a little nervous that Benson was finally joining us. But hopefully, Benson, you had a great time and we can see you again soon.
I really
And
enjoyed it. I appreciate everybody greatly. Thanks for letting me do it.
amazing. Thanks again, everyone that showed up and listened and asked amazing questions. And shout out to Cory, Brad, and Benson for everything y'all do. And we're really excited. There's, oh gosh, how many days? Someone knows the amount of days left. And they'll put it in the chat. It's coming up very soon. Oh my gosh, 34. We'll see you on the farm in 34 days, guys.
Thanks, everybody. See you guys on the farm.
See you all there.
Bye, guys. Happy Rue.